Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Wired for Logic podcast. My guest today, Dr. Carly Hudson, and she's in Denver, Colorado, and she works with Delta S Performance. She's the clinic director and an author. Carly, could you share a little bit more about what you do and how you help people?
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me on the podcast. I'm excited to talk with you. Yeah, so I work in a multi-doc office here in Colorado. We have another location in Golden. There are 5 of us chiropractors here, and we kind of specialize in the hard to crack cases. We have a really diverse, pun intended, I like this.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, I
Yeah.
like that.
Um, we have a really diverse group of providers where we have specialists in disc issues. We have someone who does dry needling and sports performance. And then my specialty in particular is post concussion and neurological conditions, as well as jaw pain, because they all so often come together. And what can happen with post concussion and dysautonomias is we end up having neurological connections in our reflexes of our eyes, our inner ear, and then the muscles of our neck. So it shows up biomechanically with like chronic neck tension and the like that is actually undermining our perspective of where we are in space. And from that, we can get headaches and migraines, brain fog, sensory processing fatigue. So lights are too bright, sounds are too noisy, all because the conversation between our inner ear, our eyes, and the muscles of our postural of our neck are not coordinated well. So we work to functionally retrain, use PT to rehabilitate those reflexes to reduce symptoms of sensory processing disorders. So that's my specialty within the clinic. And then sometimes from those postural disorders, we end up with disc issues and we'll send them to another doctor in the office, or we have athletes that want to return to peak sports performance. And so we have them work with one of our sports performance chiropractors.
So how does that work when you say rehabilitate somebody? I mean,
Mhm,
all I know about uh, chiropractors, I go
mhm.
in, I get an adjustment, and I feel better when I leave. And I know there's more to it than that, but maybe
Yeah.
you can share a little bit about the specifics.
Yeah. So chiropractic, we do have kind of your bread and butter adjusting chiropractic. There's a joint fixation, there's pain in that area, and we can adjust it and it feels better. When we go into other specialties of chiropractic, we can do a lot of PT and rehab. And so what we do for post concussion specifically is that we look at the reflexes between our eyes and our inner ears. Are we able to hold our gaze on a target? Can we follow a target as it moves, or do we start to lose that? And then if we lose the focus on our target, we also lose the communication to say that hand-eye coordination of the target is here and now I'm going to reach out my hands to receive it. All of this is the foundational aspect of where we are in space. It maps us like X, Y, and Z on an
Hmm.
axis. And without that, everything goes haywire from the bottom up. So the work of functional neurology is actually doesn't look a whole lot like any chiropractic you've seen if you've done any traditional, even like going to a place that's just going to give you a quick adjustment. What we're doing is slowing things way down and training. Can you look at a target? I have dots on my ceiling of can you stare at this dot effectively and follow this target as it moves? And we can use other sensory processing to help wake up parts of the brain to support your ability to look at this target. From there, we're going to coordinate it with head movements that are going to stimulate your vestibular system. Our inner ear is a fluid system, and every time we move it, it gives information to our brain. It's what lets us know that the boat is moving if we're out on the water or the airplane's taking off. We feel
Right.
that pressure change in our ear, and that is going to be reflexive to our neck muscles. That if we're not moving, then I know it's my environment that's moving. We have to have all of these pieces coordinated together in order to function in the world. So that it looks very much like a PT rehab situation where we are taking you through the steps of can you look at this target? Can you look at this target while your head is moving? Can you look at this target while you are standing? And integrate different levels of challenge as your symptoms and your capacity improves.
Interesting. So how long does it usually take when you're trying to put somebody through this rehabilitation process? Is it like 3 months, 6 months? Is it I'm sure it's dependent somewhat on the person as well,
Mhm.
their ability to recover.
Yeah, it depends on the complexity of the case. A non complicated post concussion syndrome, a lot of people get a concussion and they go and they rest for a couple of days and, they're back at it and that's great. Other patients will complain of difficulty with bright lights, not being able to read and focus, having chronic neck and back pain that should have resolved from them, those kinds of long lasting symptoms. And so, with patients who have a non complicated post concussion, we can see about 60% resolution over the course of 12 to 18 visits. And that the coolest thing for me, because I came to this work as a patient, the coolest thing to me is that unlike musculoskeletal PT, where it's the same thing where we're going to rehab to a fatigue point, let a muscle relax so that and rest so that it can heal. And we keep pushing that fatigue point further and further by way of strengthening, just like any workout routine. Yeah, it takes 24, 48 hours to recover for a muscle. For neuroplasticity, we can recover in as little as 20 to 30 minutes. So, for some of our patients, particularly ones that have been really incapacitated by their injury, we can stack appointments into a little boot camp, into a little intensive, where we'll do as many as 5 to 6 appointments a day with little rest breaks in between. So, we can blow through a traditional, 2 to 3 times a week PT program, 3-month course in 3 days. So, the amount of time it takes depends on the patient's ability and fatigue point. So if they're able to come in and do that intensive, we can get that 60% improvement over the course of a better part of a week. If we need to spread the appointments out further, it'll take a little bit longer.
Okay, it's interesting.
Hmm.
I do I do go in and get adjustments each week, and it I definitely notice the difference. That's, like you said, a more simplistic side of things of what
Hmm.
you guys do. You're more complicated in your process and the nuanced in your approach to things. Also found, like, speaking of brain and kind of reset, I also do cold plunges, and I
Oh
found
yeah.
that to be it has a very interesting effect on the body, and it kind of clears and resets my brain,
Hmm.
which I definitely need at the end of it. I'm going into, like, back-to-back meetings like I was sharing earlier. I came off another meeting out, switching gears to meeting with you, and then I have another meeting after this, and running a couple of different companies and trying to keep everything going in the right direction. Having that disconnect and
Hmm.
doing that plunge, between the chemicals it releases and the feeling your body gets when you do that really helps. Do you guys implement anything? You were telling me about staring at the ceiling and doing these other kind of things. Do you implement any other physical type of resets, or share
Yeah.
just a little bit more with me?
Absolutely. With a lot of patients, we have to be careful with the amount of dosing. A lot of, I don't know if you're familiar with POTS, it's a positional orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. It's
Mm.
become more prevalent in the wake of COVID. Long COVID has kind of unlocked a lot of these symptoms in patients. And so our central nervous systems, our autonomic nervous systems are a little bit more, say, temperamental, more easily triggered. So, for what sounds like for you, a very, very able bodied and strong nervous system, doing the cold plunge, I love a cold plunge in conjunction with a sauna and getting what's called hormetic stress. So, hormesis is one of my favorite words. It is the stress we put on our body. And when we put our bodies through stress, it becomes the sharpening edge on which we get to heal and which we get to become stronger. Working out is hormetic stress, intermittent fasting is hormetic stress, being out in extreme temperatures is hormetic stress, and all of that is fine. It's healthy stress. It's when we get to too much of any of those things that now we have stress that is degenerative and breaking down.
Right.
So when you do the cold plunge, you're putting your body through a really controlled amount of stress, whereas putting a metabolic load on your body to break down the cells that aren't serving you as well and build up stronger than you were before, to put it really simply. So, we will do a lot of those things with our patients, especially if it's going to help promote detox and regeneration and strengthening their autonomic nervous system, their central nervous system. That's what controls our heart rate and our breathing, our digestion, all the things that are supposed to happen under the surface. So we love sauna, cold laser, cold plunge, lymphatic drainage, and castor oil packs over the liver to help with that detox. We also love things like Normatec boots that help do that compression to regenerate and rest the legs, the limbs faster, especially on the
Absolutely
sports
love those
side.
things. They have those at the place we go
Yeah.
to for the plunge.
Yeah.
We sit there for like an hour in those things. People are like, "How can you sit there for an hour?" It's so relaxing.
It
It feels
is.
amazing.
And you're just like you're getting this compression and release on your legs that's pushing out. So our lymph system is just the fluid trash that gets made through all of our
Hmm.
metabolic processes, pushes it out of the legs, helps push the blood, pumping in fresh blood, really helps oxygenate the muscles by way of the pressure. It's fantastic so long as your body can tolerate the stimulation.
So you guys use all those different methods in your treatment then?
Our treatments we keep in office is pretty simple. We do have Normatec boots and laser here in office, and we have a couple of places where we love to recommend people to go sauna and cold plunge.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the laser? Tell me about that.
So the low level laser, red light laser, is a targeted low level light that's going to help increase metabolic activity in the place of application. So we use this a lot with disc injury, where we have swelling and irritation of the disc, whether it's a bulge or a full herniation. We need to essentially increase the activity in the area so that the body can send healing agents and healing processes to your back. So we can use the low level laser to target that space and increase the metabolic activity. You get more tissue breakdown, removing the damaged tissue, and more tissue build up for a faster healing process. We can also see that impacting neurologically in the brain, as well as in sites of swelling and inflammation like plantar fasciitis and bursitis and things of that nature.
So it can help with muscular type injuries as well as like discs and things like that?
Absolutely. Yeah, really potent in helping with disc injuries, especially some of the more minor disc injuries like disc bulges. In reality, the more severe the disc injury you have, the more your body is going to react to and heal it. It's going to heal it faster because there's more inflammation and damage to be attended to. More minor disc bulges don't have as much irritation, so there's not as much metabolic activity in the area, and we can use the laser to increase that activity and help speed up healing process.
Interesting. So about, muscular issues like on the lower back and things like that, do you guys ever treat those with the laser as well, or is that not
N-
an area
Not
of?
as much in like strained sprains. We certainly could do that in a place of a strained sprain, like a muscle pull or bruising, a deep bone bruise, and then we're out of the muscle there again. That can help with the strain ligamentous and tendon damage, so more of like a rolled ankle, ACL tear, meniscal tears, things of that nature. We would use the laser there.
Okay. Interesting. It's very fascinating. I hadn't heard about that before, so that's interesting. I'll have to dig into that a little bit more.
Yeah, take a
Um,
low level laser.
I do know that it's very interesting to me in terms of the chiropractic aspect of it with getting an adjustment. I think there's a something wonky with my right hip.
Mhm.
It, always kind of in disbelief. And they go in there, and they'll say like, raise one leg up, and the one that's kind of wonky, I can like barely raise it up just a little
Mhm.
bit. And then they say raise the other one. It's like
Yep.
they're like, okay, hold on a second. Then I'll do a little adjustment. They're like, okay, raise the right one again. And it's like no issue raising it up.
It's the best magic trick there is.
It's amazing.
I always think about I think the best way to kind of conceptualize these adjustments and why they make such a big difference is that our whole body oversimplified. I love to oversimplify things.
Sure.
I don't want to gatekeep with medical Latin. Is that the whole body is levers and pulleys, and our
Right.
joints are hinges. And if you ever think about having a door frame that's old and getting a little bit crooked, and you can open the door. The hinge is maybe hanging off a little bit, the screws have gotten loose, and it's not flush the way it's supposed to be. The door
Yeah.
opens. You can do it. How much effort do you have to put into pushing and pulling that door to get it closed? How much is that door dragging on the floor and scraping through the nice hardwood or pulling up the carpet? There is damage that is happening from trying to open the door on it that's not on its hinges, and there is effort associated with it. Now you go on up and you adjust the screws, you get it flush again, the door swings nice and easy, maybe throw a little WD-40 on there. You're not hurting the carpet, you're not hurting the hinges, you're not hurting the floor, and the effort is much less. So when you think about any place in your body where movement has become compromised or painful or limited, you're off the hinges. And can we create an adjustment that more puts your joints in a more ideal position so that your muscles are now pulling from the vector they were meant to rather than stretched over here off to the side a little bit where
Right.
they're not as strong and where you're going to get muscle damage over time because they're doing the best they can, but not the way they were designed. Or
Yep.
you're recruiting other muscles to try and get that same movement. So it's all easier when things are aligned the way they ought to be.
That makes a lot of sense. When you, I know it's not your main focus, like the chiropractic aspect of it. Y'all are a little more sophisticated than that. But how often do you recommend people go in for chiropractic treatment? Once a month, once every 2 weeks, once a week, multiple times a week? What do
Yeah,
you
so we
recommend?
yeah, so we do see a lot of the traditional chiropractic. That was where I got my start, was working particularly with extremities. I love arms and legs, adjusting those spaces. It really depends on where you are in your injury and recovery cycle. If you have something that you've pulled your shoulder, you're thrown out your back, that treatment plan is going to look a lot different for your body to try and put you back on track. There is again, a neuromuscular learning process where if you have been compensating for that door that's been off the hinge for a while, we can adjust that joint and put it right back, and your body's going to go back to, yeah, but this is the way I was doing it. Don't you want me to pull at this weird diagonal angle? Like, no, we really don't. So some of these adjustments are retraining your body enough times and hopefully giving you some PT, musculoskeletal exercises, stretching, strengthening, so that you can find that stability and that alignment where it ought to be. And when you come through that period, a lot of my patients work through this stronger alignment to do wellness check ins about once a month, once every month and a half. I also work with the population of hypermobility with Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, EDS, and those patients we want to touch even less because we're already hypermobile and loosey goosey. So we focus more on strengthening and stabilizing rather than adjusting. So every patient population is different and it really depends on your goals. My kiddo is in roller derby and they are getting adjusted a lot because they are
Well,
falling and knocking themselves sideways a lot. I'm more of the bookworm type. I'm not going to get knocked around quite as much as they are. And, my adjustment schedule matches that as well.
do they enjoy the roller derby?
They really do. It
Nice.
is so fantastic.
Nice. Well, it
Mhm.
pays that you're in that field because obviously that could get expensive real quick if they're having to go in for, weekly visits or anything like that.
Yeah, it's nice to have connections in the industry for sure.
No, I can definitely appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've enjoyed. I think self care is important. Whether you're
Mhm.
going in for just like maintenance for a chiropractor, you're going in for an injury or what have you.
Mhm.
What's one of the more interesting you know cases that you dealt with over the years? Like, how long have you been in this industry? First off, I didn't get that early at the beginning.
Yeah. So I've been in the health and wellness industry for 20 years now.
Okay.
My first job was actually as a personal trainer for Curves Fitness for Women. It was
Okay.
fantastic. It was mostly cheerleading at that point, but it was so fun to teach women how to take care of their bodies and get stronger and to target areas that we don't move on a regular basis. Then I became a massage therapist, and from there I moved on and became a chiropractor, and now I'm specializing in functional neurology. So I've been a chiropractor for 10 years coming up this spring and in the industry for 20.
We one of our larger clients is a massage franchise, and I've
Mhm,
built up quite the friendship with my massage therapist. I've been seeing her for like 14 years. She's absolutely amazing.
mhm.
But I think when my wife and I first started dating, I took her in there to do a couples massage. And I asked her at the end of it, I was like, "Hey, how'd you enjoy the massage? Was it just the most amazing massage you'd ever had?" She goes, "No, it's horrible." I was like, "Why was it horrible?" It's like, "You and Sarah wouldn't shut the hell up. You guys were just talking the entire time. I couldn't do it, couldn't sleep." I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, no more couples massage." And so, yeah, we never done a couples massage after that. It's like, yeah, that's a one and done thing. She's very much
Oh,
a one and done kind of person.
it's funny because I would refuse to get a couples massage with my husband for the same reason. He would be chatting with his therapist the whole time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, y'all were
Yeah.
two little chatty Cathys over there the entire time. And I was like, okay, well, that's fair. That's
Yeah,
fair.
like, I want quiet and zone out. Yeah.
When you've known somebody long enough, it's like you know everything about their kids, you know everything about their family, their
Mhm.
dog, their cats, their all that kind of stuff. And she was instrumental, a very special place for her, both as a friend and with our business. She was the one who kind of got us connected with the Massage Heights that's a couple doors down from us,
Yeah.
that location's actually owned by the founder of the company, and so she was kind enough to put in a couple good words for us. We got to talk with him and got him set up with a phone system, and it's kind of ballooned from that to now we do all their new build outs.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a it's been an incredible run with them, and we really enjoyed it. But I'm all big into health and wellness, and I love to when people take the extra mile to take care of themselves. I think that's how you
Mhm.
get, just like a car. If you never take it and maintain it, I mean, it's going to break down prematurely. Same thing with your body. If you don't take
Yeah.
care of it when you have pain, if you don't go seek professionals such as yourself to address that pain, it's only going to get worse. It's not like, oh, I just
Yeah.
ignore it. Next week it'll be better. It's like,
Yeah, it was it
no,
actually I had one of my colleagues tell me they're a big car guy, and he was saying is like, our bodies are like cars. Like if your light goes on, the repairs are not going to get less expensive over time.
right,
There's gonna be there's it's going to be more, it's going to tear apart more of the machine, and what it's gonna take you back to get back to neutral is going to be more costly and time consuming. So better to look at it foundationally. And that's what I love about working in the industry of healthcare that I've been able to work in is that we're not waiting for things to break down. We're not waiting for all of the big red flags to show up. I mean, we certainly have those. Post concussion, that's a red flag on its own. We have
right,
people that come in and they're in a lot of pain. But our goal in our office and all of the doctors that work for us whenever we look to hire, this has to be a foundational belief is that we want to educate. We want to teach people about their bodies. We want to teach people how to use their bodies. It feels like there's some cheat code, some manual that we should have gotten and no one ever did. And we want to give you that. We want to give you the manual to your body, to your activities, to the chronic conditions that you bring in, so that when you do have problems, you're no longer caught off guard by this mystery and this sneak attack of, I don't know what happened. I just bent over and my back went out. I just always get these headaches. We can help distill that into things that you can do to maintain and take care of your body so that you're not having to deal with weekly migraines. You're not having to deal with your back just going out 4 to 5 times a year because that's every other month. That's way too much
yeah,
if you have a life and a job and kids and the will to stand up. It's too much. And that's how we get our patients to coming in for wellness and maintenance every month, month and a half is we're teaching you the things that you need to do to take care of yourself instead of the onus being on you to come in and get the adjustments, get the regular massage. It's a terrible business model, but we do want people to be healthy and happy and in charge of
sure.
their own physical self.
I think if you do that, routine maintenance like you're talking
Mhm.
about coming in for those visits, I think it'll go a long way.
Mhm.
I get adjusted once a week. I go do massages once a week. I
Mhm.
plunge almost every day.
Yep.
You want to try to do some physical activity too. I mean, I sit in a chair. You're seeing me right now. This is the bulk of my day is sitting in a chair. So when I get an opportunity to go do something else, like go get some exercise or go chase the kiddos around or something like
Mhm.
that, it's good for you. But you got to
Yeah.
do everything in moderation and make sure you take care of your body because you only get one. You can't just like, oh, this one's given out. Let me just go in and get the new model. It doesn't work like
Yeah.
that.
Oh man. I think about that sometimes. But yeah, we do have the one that we're dragging around and it pays to pay attention to what it needs on the day to day rather than waiting for the crisis and hoping that you can find the time and the money to come back from that.
Yep. So
Hmm.
what? And so speaking of injuries and things get worse and worse, what's one of the worst cases that you were able to turn around and make a significant impact on that person's life?
The worst cases that I see are in the realm of the functional neurology and dysautonomia. That those things can snowball really quickly. So to break it down and hopefully not get too lost in the weeds, when we talk about these reflexes, the eye, the inner ear, and the neck, and that shows us where we are in space. The reason I love working with the EDS community is there's not a whole lot known about hypermobility, but our entire body is made of collagen, except for our bones. And so if we have hypermobility is a collagen creation disorder. And so we can have disorders in any part of our bodies except for our bones. And so if we have weakness in the muscles and ligaments that maintain tone in our joints, in our shoulders, and then in our inner ear and in our eyes, that hypermobility can start to turn into a baseline of neurological stress, where we don't really know where we are in space because everything's a little bit of a best guess because all the joints go a little too far. Does that make sense so far? Yeah. And so I have patients who have been quote unquote compensating well their whole life where, maybe they were a little clumsy and then maybe sports weren't quite it. And then maybe the headaches started to happen and then the chronic neck pain starts to happen. We see this buildup over time of things that we're told are just normal. Headaches now and then are normalized. Back pain now and then is normalized. We sit so much. We have all these ways that we talk about our body just putting up with life as okay. And the brain fog starts because underneath it all, with hypermobility, we are spending so much of our neurological capacity trying to make sense of fuzzy data because joint movement is too loose, because our inner ears aren't giving us the information we need. And ultimately, I have had patients who have had to go on temporary or permanent disability because the capacity of just staying upright in a body that can't make sense of the world around it becomes too much. The focus, the brain fog, and they can't keep a job. And so in those patient cases, we work on strengthening the joints so that when we have ligament laxity, too joints that are too loose and go too far, we need the muscles to be stronger to make up for that difference in movement. We need to give a break to the visual and vestibular system that have been working on behalf of our body, filling in the blanks so that we stop having vertigo and headaches and the like. All of these pieces being coordinated. And it's the simplest things. It's isometric, it's like muscle control contraction exercises around the joints. It's that gaze stability of just looking at the dot, but it's doing all of these simple things deliberately start to make existing in this one body we have easier. There's a better
Yeah.
capacity for it. And the brain fog starts to go away and the headaches start to go away. And we've had patients that are basically stuck at home able to re-enter the workforce. And those are the coolest ones to see.
It's amazing. Do you have one in particular, or a case that you've done recently or a while back that, yeah, team protected to protect the innocent, whatever.
Yeah.
Tiffany came in. We were able to work with Tiffany for 6 months, and she
Hmm.
turned around, and it was a tremendous outcome. And she now is I don't know, productive member of society or whatever. Like one of those heartwarming stories about how you changed somebody's life.
I do have one case that always strikes me just because the things that we normalize in our body never cease to amaze me. And I say we a whole lot about these people because I am these people. I had a neurological condition from having a metabolic concussion as an infant. So I had brain damage coming right out the gate. And so my case is one of my favorites too, because I am now a functioning member of society, but I normalize so much of my pain. And that's what I really see with these kind of neurological conditions, even back pain and headaches, is that we just normalize these experiences.
Yeah.
So I had a patient that came in and she wanted to see me for jaw work. That's one of my specialties. I love working on TMJ dysfunction and tightness in the jaw. And she had a lot of jaw pain and came in. We started doing the health history and the intake. And she just says very casually, like, oh yeah, and I sleep upright because if I lay down on my back, I start to seize. I just go into full body tremors and seize, but it's fine. That just lasts until I fall asleep. Like, for how long? Like,
Okay.
I don't know. My whole life. Okay. And it was so normalized to her experience because for all of the doctors and all of the care she had been to, no one had an answer for it. No one had a way of addressing it. There had been pharmaceuticals, there had been medications, but nothing ever really got to it. So she's like, this is just me. I sleep upright, or when I lay down on my back, I just seize until I pass out. I Okay.
It's
So
horrible.
let's dig a little bit deeper into your exam. And I think that maybe the jaw pain isn't the thing that we should work on here. And we ended up looking at these reflexes. So I looked at her gaze stability, I looked at her vestibular system, and I looked at her muscular tone. And in our office, we use some technology. We have these really cool goggles with infrared cameras so we can see what your eyes do in the dark if they don't have anything to focus on. Because your eye stability in the dark, like if you close your eyes and you can feel your eyes kind of darting all over the place, that is a little bit of an indicator that your inner ear is having a hard time knowing where your eyes should be pointed without anything to look at. So we can look at what your vestibular system is doing just by how your eyes move in the dark. And based on these findings, I would say that her center of gravity, where she perceived herself in space, was behind her. And she'd say, "Oh yeah, it always feels like down is back, down is behind me." And so she when once we started talking about it more, she'd say like, "Oh yeah, it's like 3 feet behind me." I'm like, "Okay, well down should be down." And so when she lay down, her nervous system, which already thought that she was leaning too far, perceived it as if she was falling. And that's why she was seizing, is she was trying to catch herself from falling. And so from that case, we worked on changing these reflexes so that her center of gravity came forward to meet her in the middle. And
Okay.
from that, the muscle pain, the muscle tightness released. The muscles were there to keep her safe, to keep her from falling, and the seizing went away, and the brain fog went down, and the headaches went down because where she found herself to be in place now matched gravity, and she could navigate the world with more ease.
That's incredible. I mean,
It's my
that's
favorite.
life changing right there. That's and so she could actually then lay down and go to sleep now going forward.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, without seizing.
It's
And it's
crazy
my
the things we take for granted that there's somebody else out there dealing with. I don't know how I would sleep if I couldn't lay down and go to sleep. That's crazy,
Well, in these complex cases, because there are so many systems that are overlapped,
right?
and you go to the ENT and they look in your ear and there's no fluid, there's no scar tissue, there's no damage there, that's fine. You go to the optometrist, you see 20/20, that's fine. But how are these systems talking to each other? And that's what we do in our office is we look at this highly specialized way that allopathic medicine has started to take these systems apart. And that's a cardiac problem, and that's a GI problem, and that's an eye problem. And they're really, we are a whole body trying to coordinate and work together. And if we start to look at it from this whole human perspective, then these weird symptoms really aren't that weird and they make a lot of sense. And that will forever be my favorite part of working with the patient base I'm in, especially having been one and gone through 27 years of medical gaslighting, is to hear them tell this story and to be able to say, "I believe you and I know where we go from here," is the best moment in my clinic room every single time.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, same kind of thing. Like from an IT perspective, we always want to get to root cause. People will say, oh, this program runs really slow.
Mhm,
Okay, why does it run slow? Is it your computer that's making it run slow? Where is
mhm,
this program getting its information from? Is it your server internally? Is it something in the cloud? Like
mhm.
tying all those systems together and kind of trying to reverse engineer and figure out what's actually causing this issue instead of just looking at it on the surface. And that's amazing how you're able to kind of reverse engineer that situation with that lady and change your life. I mean,
Yeah,
that's awesome. That technology you're talking about with the
mhm,
goggles, that's really cool. What other neat
yeah,
technology things? We were talking about at the beginning that we're going to dive in a little bit of technology. We
mhm.
haven't really touched on that yet. What cool technologies do you use like the goggles?
I mean, I hate to admit, especially since technology, as we talk about AI and the things that we would want for AI, but we are actually a pretty low tech office. We use technologies like the goggles. The VOG goggles are really fun to get to see basically the inner workings of the brain to map that out. We use vibrational stim and e-stim to light up the nerve pathways to get to nuclei in the brainstem and midbrain so that we can because if I'm trying to get your autonomic nervous system, which lives deep, deep, deep protected in your brain, to work better, I can't just go in there and poke it. I have to find some other ways to stimulate it. And so we stimulate it through the sensory processing of the body. So I might use an e-stim device on a nerve that runs along our jaw because that nuclei fires near something that I want to have a positive impact on. I always talk to my patients, it's like having a house party next door because you want the neighbors to hear a really cool new song, and you just gotta blast it loud enough that the sensory gets picked up in the
Yep.
neighborhood that you're looking for. So we use e-stim, we use vibration, we do use the Normatec boots and the low-level laser as well, but the rest of it is we're trusting the body to use simple external cues to better map itself in space.
Nice.
But
That's awesome.
for actually, as I think about for some of our other specialties like disc injuries, Dr. Stephanie Schwetz, our disc specialist, and Dr. Cameron Floyd, they use tables that have a flexion distraction aspect to it. So we can strap our patients down to the table and create that nice targeted stretch into that tight area of the back. If you've ever had a disc blown out that you're like, I want to stretch, but I want to stretch right here, we can create stretching and flexion in a really targeted area by way of how our tables move and how we can impact the patient upon them.
That sounds interesting.
Mhm.
I go to get, I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. I do go to get stretches twice a week. I
Mhm.
actually went in earlier today because, again, I sit a lot. So having those muscles stretch. And it's
Mhm.
funny that therapist I go see, she says, yeah, I have a lot of people that come in and, they just, barely want any stretch. And it's like, barely want any stretch. It's like,
Mhm.
why do you even bother stretching? It's like going to a massage and just, gently touch the area.
Mhm.
I want that knot to get worked on. I want that muscle to get stretched so it's not as
Mhm.
tight for the rest of the week. It doesn't do me any good to just go in there and spend 30 minutes just talking to you. I actually want you to work that muscle out. So it's interesting to me. Some people are not very comfortable with pushing limits and expanding your boundaries and things like that, but everyone's a little different.
Yeah, and you really have to meet that body at the edge of what it needs. It's so bodies that are hypermobile, that have a lot of extra bendy movement, and I'm kind of wanting to wonder if you have a little extra flexibility to you. We feel a lot of stretch hunger. Like we want that deep stretch. We want to really feel to that edge of movement
Yep.
because again, that's part of how we're going to map with the receptors that are in the joint spaces. And I can't just go out to 90 degrees here. I gotta go wrap all the way around and, you know, touch my opposite hip in order to finally feel a stretch in that joint. So there's a constant hunger to it. Someone who is really blocky and dense and heavy doesn't want a lot of stretch because they feel the compression on that joint space as a matter of life. They are going to want more of the heavy lifting and weightlifting so that they can get the feedback into their muscle belly. But ironically, the people who crave stretch need strengthening, and the people who don't want to stretch at all need to put down the weights and get onto the stretch lab table a little bit more.
Yep. It's very interesting. I had done with the stretch today. I was so out of it. I mean, because she goes really deep into the stretches, so I felt like I just gotten done with like a 2 hour massage.
Mhm.
I was ready to just pass out on the table and call it a day.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's an interesting feeling. What moving on from technology, what AI is becoming more and more prevalent in our lives and our businesses and things like that. What do you use AI for currently in your business, or what would you like to use it for if you could use the analogy earlier, wave a magic wand? It's like, well, we have this one little area we could use some improvement on. If I could have it do anything, I'd love it to do X, Y, and Z. Really help
Mhm.
us out.
Yeah. Currently I don't think this falls so much into AI, but we use a lot of smart phrases in our charting. We want to use technology to make our charting faster and more efficient so that we can spend more time with our patients. There's a lot of caution in using AI in charting because you don't want it to be incorrect and vague in a way that doesn't accurately represent what you're doing in the treatment room. But all the same, if I can have shorthand and short notes to say, these are the adjustments that I did. This is the visceral manipulation that I did in the treatment that comes out. That's really effective. What we would like to use AI for and have been talking a lot in our team meetings is about patient outcomes. That if we could have the magic wand, and there are some companies, not that I can think of their names right off the top of my head because they're not a good fit for our office. There are some companies that for larger healthcare systems are able to look at diagnostic codes and then outcome measurements to say, given a rotator cuff tear, just like the question you asked at the beginning, how long does it take? Can we use AI to crunch the numbers of here's the diagnostic code, here's our outcome assessments, and now we can say on average we get rotator cuff injuries better, 75% over the course of X many treatments. That's what we'd like to see AI used for, is to really dig into the data of our clinical time and then use that to help us improve our outcomes.
Okay, interesting. I think anything, we're not big believers in replacing people with AI, but we
Mhm.
are a big believer in using AI to make people's lives easier and to
Mhm.
help improve workflow and things like that. So we definitely see there's a big advantage there and an opportunity to help improve that across the board.
Mhm.
Closing thoughts that you could think of.
I was thinking, before we got to recording and we were chatting about a PT office where, like, the interpersonal, aspects was changing how patient care worked, and that's always my push-pull with AI and something as personable as healthcare. I will get made fun of in my office for being, 105 years old and just, like, trying to stick to paper and pen as long as possible. And so, what I feel as we go through this technology and AI is just like you said, we don't want to replace humans, but we want to make what we can do more efficient. You know,
Yes.
can I use AI to help me understand my patient outcomes better, know what clinical tools I should use so that when I'm in the treatment room with my patient, I'm not worried about scheduling and processes and chart noting and all of the administrative things that it takes to run a business and to be a clinic director is I want to be here with my patient so that they know I, as a human, am looking at their body and seeing what their body is telling me in terms of movement disorders, muscle tone, tension, the stuff that I have been trained to do. And I love seeing those processes come through in EHRs and charting to just let doctors be doctors again, because so much of our work has gotten pulled into administrative red tape, unfortunately.
Yeah, I can't even imagine how much red tape you guys go through. I
Mhm,
know, like when I go in for a massage, they have to do the little chart, I think afterwards or before. I
mhm.
don't remember when they do it, but they're little, they call them soap notes or something like
Yep.
that.
Yeah, soap notes.
It's just got to be that's not the fun part. The fun part is if you enjoy doing what you do, the fun part is working with the patient and seeing that
Mhm.
improvement over the visits and things like that and helping them get back to a better place, not filling out their chart and notating what treatments they've done, and that kind of stuff. That's not the fun part.
True. Yep.
Well, I guess we'll call that a podcast. We'll wrap it up here. I really appreciate you joining us today and sharing all that. It's very interesting to get different perspective. I've had a lot of good conversations with a lot of different people in various different industries, architecture, mining, some in technology, and then chiropractic today. But I really appreciate all your input and everything you're able to share with us about both your business and technology and AI and how you think it could help shape the future of clinics.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can have another discussion down the road, and I'll look forward to speaking again.
That sounds wonderful. Thanks for having me today.